this record has a lot more space in general.
Than we normally do.
There's a lot of density, but the beginning of The Wonder is this just like big, long, drawn out, like one note on the piano.
Yeah.
The chorus takes like, I don't know, 3 minutes to get to.
We actually wrote fairly separately. This, for the most part, the record, because we were going through this period where we were in essence separated. Andrew would write the music and I would then write the lyrics and the melody often. I mean, sometimes, we would collaborate.
So you were in essence separated, but at the same time collaborating.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was like one of the first times that we like pretty much like sat down and wrote these songs, these demos, and then like sat on them for like 6 months and like didn't really do much with them, or just like chipped away at them slowly, like week after week. Yeah. And so the patience was also in that writing process. And that like we went through, like, I don't know, 25 different versions of the song before we finalized it together. But that was like the process, was writing separately and then getting together and editing together. Yeah. Which was kind of like, it was just really refreshing and a healthy part of our relationship at the time. Yeah. Because we were both excited about it. But it was a different process than we normally went through with writing together.
There's a lot of emphasis on the we in the record.
Yeah.
The record is called We Will You. And the first single is We Must Stand Up.
Yes.
And the first track is What If We Don't.
Yeah.
It's interesting just isolating those three we statements, because they could almost form a sentence. We must stand up, we will you, what if we don't? How does it feel to be like putting those three together? Is that one interpretation that kind of makes sense? These puzzle pieces fit together,
totally.
or do the we's? Are there different types of we? Because that reads in a more kind of political, especially now in a more political context, like we must stand up, which we must. Yeah. But at the same time, the we is often specifically the two of you, or the idea of any smaller entity, like a couple.
Yeah.
How are the different ways in which the we is characterized, and what journey does the we take in the record?
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I'm still like enjoying that statement that you made.
We must stand up. We will you. What if we don't?
Yeah, I think just to say this, because I like have it in my mind.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about the order of the record, which was unintentional when we first made the order, is that it starts with what if we don't, which is like, okay, like we should be bettering the world, but what if we don't?
Yeah.
And then, it takes this journey of, okay, we will you, we must stand up. And then the very last song, A Love Movement, which is sort of like, okay, we're gonna do this, like we're together. Yeah. And then it cycles back around to what if we don't? And I think it's like when the CD's over, or the record or whatever, and you have to flip it over, it's okay, it starts back with what if we don't. And I feel like that's the cycle that is life.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, getting through it, and then you're through it, and then okay, now we're back again. What if we don't? And then so anyway, that's what I was just thinking when you said that.
You said that thing last night where it's like side A is self-oriented and side B is the other-oriented.
Yeah.
So what's the shift? Because I sent the questions in advance. So in response to the questions,
well, we were reading through, and I was like, I'd never thought about that. Because when we made the order, we were really thinking, in some ways, more musically.
Yes.
But as I was thinking through what you had sent, I was like, oh man, the first half of the record, which if you buy the, if you get the final, this would be side A.
Yeah.
It's self-oriented. So even what if we don't is all about like, well, we want to do what we want to do. Like, we don't want to. So it's sort of a selfish we.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like whispers in my sleep. That's an I, and it held me. And anyway, blah, blah,
I
blah.
highlighted the it as well. You might say there's like the we, and there's the I and the you and the it, because it holds me.
Yeah.
for example. It just struck me as very interesting, the interplay between we, you, me, and it.
Yes.
I mean,
I think that's probably intentional because we were feeling like that. I think that first half of that record in some ways symbolizes that the period where we were most uncomfortably separated from each other.
So when you were writing those songs, or at least that's, regardless of when you wrote the songs,
Yes.
that's what it's dealing with.
Yes, and yes, both and I think that the it was the separation.
ambition too.
Yeah, it was what caused the separation and what caused the separation. And then
that holds me.
yeah,
You're
but
being
it
held.
held me. So it's in past tense.
Yeah,
So it starts to transition, and then that second half of the record, the side B, starts with "We Must Stand Up," and then the rest of the tracks are very much more like I'm on your, I Will Go Slow is like I'm on your side. Sometimes We Disconnect is all about that getting back together. So the second half is like, okay, let's make this work. Let's get back together.
Yeah.
Get it back together, whatever that would mean to someone.
It's like a journey of of feeling the need of self, and then realizing that the other is like more important than your own needs of self, and the affirmation of the other.
Okay.
Whether that's a relationship, like we want it to be like, it could be meant for people that are seeking like something about for their own relationships. It could be like for people just wanting to enter into a relationship with a community.
Yeah.
Like that is the concept that hopefully the end of the record gets to.
Yeah.
Is that emphasis.
But the end of the record, which then in turn points back to the beginning, because there's something that struck me as really interesting, is that there isn't this, as this is true in life of course as well, that there isn't this perfect molding of the two entities into one substance. So and that comes through in the lyrics. So on the one hand we have "We Move Together," and I think that's at the beginning of the side B.
Yes,
then,
you got it.
But then on the other hand, we have "Don't Cut Me Off, I'm Not Your Right Hand," and that's one of the most intriguing, ambiguous lyrics to me on the record, because I might say, oh, this person is my right hand, and by that I would mean that I feel so much intimacy with them and I feel so connected with them.
Yeah.
But the idea, would we really want... What's going on with that? I don't want to kind of provide one interpretation of it, but what do you think is going on in the idea, "Don't cut me off, I'm not your right hand"?
Feel that?
Yeah, I do. Okay. So that is that's actually a reference to something that Jesus says in the New Testament.
Ah, okay.
He says something to the nature of like, if your right hand is causing you to sin, cut it off.
Oh yes, of course.
Right. So when I was writing that the wonder, that line came. It just was a unit. Oh, it came. Yeah. And I think for me when I was writing it, it was like when you are in an argument, let's say, you are trying to win that argument, and I think if you're going through a hard time or you feel attacked in some way, human beings, we just love projecting that, let's just, for lack of a better word, let's call it our sin or whatever, onto the other person. And then I think naturally we want to cut it off because it's bad and it's ugly, so we end up like throwing the other person under the bus. We end up cutting them off.
You're bad in this respect, so I can't have you in my life.
Yeah, so don't cut me off because I'm not your right hand. I'm actually like a human, and and I'm here, and
so that's really interesting that you say the one thing that I am is what I am.
Yes.
Okay, so it's like resisting metaphor. That's not the only reference to hands. There's two references to knuckles. There's white knuckles and look around you, and then "We Must Stand Up" has "My friend, our knuckles are bound together." What's the significance of not just hands, but more specifically knuckles, and the idea of knuckles being bound together and of them being white?
Well, I mean,
I feel like I'm realizing things as you're talking.
Yeah.
I'm being like hit with things as
Yeah,
you're.
about what you've done.
It's funny
Yeah.
when you write. Sometimes when you do art, you don't know what it means
Yeah.
until
And that's for the
later
best,
or
I think.
years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like wow,
Until
I'm
you realize what
uncovering
it means,
these.
it's like uncovering yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say what that means to me?
Absolutely.
Is that cool? The idea of like the knuckles white, or like knuckles white on the steering wheel,
Like a white knuckle ride.
like just grabbing the steering
Yeah.
wheel and just being so tense and intense with your grip that your knuckles turn white. Which to me, this lyric, and it might mean something different to you too, was on this tour that we went on in 2015 when we released our last EP, which is We Are, They Are. We were on this tour and going between shows and long drives between shows. Basically, when you're on tour, it's just like this roller coaster. It's like, anybody who's been on tour knows that. There's great shows, amazing energy, and then there's the polar opposite. Like really bummer shows, like weird energy.
Yeah.
And we were navigating, we had like 2 or 3 shows that didn't go very well.
Yeah.
Right after another. And we were just like and we had put so much work into this tour.
Yeah.
So much work into this EP.
Yeah.
And booking and organizing and everything. And we were just sitting there just like knuckling through, like, we're just going to keep doing this.
Yeah, literally driving and literally navigating, but
we're just like talking ourselves up. Like, we're just like, okay, we can do this. It's going to be great. The show's going to be better. It's like, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And then just realizing that, that sometimes doesn't happen. And you have to just have like this iron will when you're an artist and musician that like you don't care if it goes well or not.
That's interesting, the iron will, because it's on the one hand like the polar opposite of like the intimacy and the kind of the being just present there and like like hiding at the side, but then these two things kind of go together, and there's moments in the record I think where the presence of an iron will in one member of the couple is what is considered to be a threat to the we.
Right, and that's what kind of.
Are you our therapist? I'm feeling
that's
like
Exactly. With this setup. That's right.
We're gonna get the bill at the end.
That's sort of like what kind of pushed us over the edge on that tour was like,
Right.
this is like not worth it. Like this is so much work, and it's like mentally taxing and draining, and it's just really hard to deal with. It kind of like was one of the factors that pushed us over the edge, was that tour that just went the wrong way.
Yeah, and we talk. Actually, we're we just, it's a continual conversation, and it always has been since we started. But like, how do you have a vision for something and have a dream? And in some ways, I think our journey is, at least our journey, and I think in general, if anyone else chooses to do this, like you have a dream, and the whole time your life you're just figuring out how to hold it in the right way. Like we were holding our the dream or the vision that we had like so like knuckles like and it was totally impacting our lives in very negative ways, like, and it was impacting our relationship and our friendships and our psyches and all these things, because we were holding too tightly to this dream and having a hard time like weighing that thing with reality, with what was going on. Yeah,
so you had to be holding tightly to just mentally get through that part of the tour, but then at the same time, by virtue of holding tightly, it has all of this impact.
Yeah, I think that's like what causes a lot of people to burn out, is when you hold too tightly to a vision, and then you're just like, it's this survivalist mentality, like I've got to get this, and then like when it push comes to shove and you're facing reality, so often trying to tell yourself it's not that way and you're not going through, it takes so much, it's such a sacrifice mentally and emotionally to grip onto that dream, that you just burn out.
But here you are, about to release a record and about to go on a tour, and you'll be
knuckling through it again.
Knuckling through it again.
Well, hopefully not, because we've learned a lot.
So knuckling through, is like one way of thinking about things, muscling through. So that's a lyric as well. I was struck by the physicality of these metaphors, both in our conversation, knuckling through, and then in the songs, muscling through, sticking on your side. The body is present in both of those. And then of course like you have bodies present like in the video. It's common to think about like the body and the mind as different things. Does the music kind of pull against that with these reminders of the body, or what's the body doing in these songs and in the performances?